right, good evening, guys. Welcome to episode 25 of Three Men on the Record. Today we have Jake, of course, we got Scott, and we have Jonny wearing a shirt that's confusing the hell out of me right now. So welcome in, guys. We had some fun earlier on. It's not often that I can be the judge, and I was. That was awesome. And I didn't get any tips from PayPal, so I didn't get bribed, guys. Despite what people
I tried to send you a PayPal, Sean, during that show, but it said my offer was rejected. Please increase your offer.
Well, there you go.
Turntable.
So this is episode 25, guys. We got we're talking about, we're gonna talk about the supergroups later on. That's what they're gonna be going on is supergroups, and that will be fun. Loretta, thank goodness, Loretta. I was hoping that when Jonny came on, he would have been duct taped to the chair and you would have taken over. And that would have been awesome. Him in the back and you on the show. So please make that happen next time. That would have been awesome. All right. So what do we got going on with you guys today? Anything exciting going on?
Just a little debate online. That was all.
What are we going to ask Jonny? Because usually we ask our guest a question. He's already been on before.
Yeah, I was wondering that myself.
There's still time. I don't know. I don't have any questions for you today. If you guys have a question for Jonny, let us know. So, Jonny, what have you been up to since the last time we saw you?
Oh, when was the last time I was on here? We've had some, since the last time I was on here, we went to the largest record fair on the planet. We went to Den Bosch, over to the Netherlands, which is a short drive for us. Spent 3 days digging through crates from all over the world. And we've had a couple shows here or over on Whatnot and passed a lot of those awesome records on to other people. So we still have a few left over. We're going to have another show this weekend over on Whatnot, but I'm sure we'll talk about our Whatnots later on. So
thank you, Thomas.
We'll
get him, buddy. We'll get him.
I've had that question before, Stacy. I want to say it was during another interview session that I had at one.
Answer differently this time.
Splatter vinyl.
Answer differently.
There's other options.
I would be an original pressing. That's what I would be.
OG. There he is.
I would be an OG.
How about maybe mono? That would have been an answer. 200 gram. Something. Because, I like the old traditional black colored wax because there's something special about that. It's called carbon. And what does carbon do? It reduces static. Naturally reduces static. So biggest enemy for vinyl is static for the most part. So there we go. All right. And so did you meet any interesting characters in Das Bosch or whatever you call it?
In Den Bosch.
So
the actual title of the name of the city is Hertogenbosch, but they call it Den Bosch. Met a few people, some dealers from the UK. They're always easier to talk to because of the language thing. Saw some familiar faces. We've got a few guys that we talked to from Belgium, from here in Germany, from the Netherlands. Actually ran across one dealer, went to a booth, and we're just looking for something. And in the midst of talking with him, he looks at me and he's like, I enjoy your videos on YouTube. So I was recognized at the world's largest record fair. So
big time on us, Jonny. Big time.
I needed another pull behind dolly just to carry my enormous ego in my head. So, but yeah, that was fun.
Now, Jonny, just have a forehead like me, brother. You got all the room you need.
Yeah. So did Loretta make some good wheeling and dealing? Because Loretta's the money person. She's the one that's negotiate.
She's a negotiator, Sean.
Yeah, I was about to say Jake's got the nickname right there. So
the negotiator.
Because I'm too impassioned with the stuff. I just see it and I just want it. And she's like, no, you have to make the deal. It's the art of the deal. So that's her job, and absolutely she did, because we walked away with 3 crates full of stuff. It was a ridiculous amount of grails.
How many times, Jonny, would you be on and be like, where is my wife? Where did my wife go? Like, she was there and then she would vanish. She's negotiating.
She was she was returning all the records Johnny overpaid for.
Probably that too.
and they. All right, so let's talk about new arrivals. What have you guys added to your collection? I've got a bunch, but usually Johnny would go first. You have anything new, or?
A couple things. So a couple of RSD. So RSD for me, a lot of this stuff is delayed because I'm getting it from folks in the States, because it's, we do have Record Store Day over here in Europe, but it's different. We don't get all the titles like this one here, which was very hard one to get. This is In Vogue EV3. First time ever pressed on vinyl, and it was limited to 1,000 copies. Got that one. Scott showed this one off last week, but I just got it. I haven't even had a chance to listen to it yet. So, but it looks really cool. We're talking about vinyl variants.
It's very new wavy sounding.
I'm looking forward to listening to it. And then the other thing I did do the Interscope Vinyl Collective for a couple months because there were a few titles I wanted to get. And one of them was, we were talking about Chris Cornell a little earlier amongst ourselves. And this is Carry On, first time it was ever pressed on vinyl as well. And it's a 2 LP from the Interscope Vinyl Collective, limited to 3,000. So lucky to get a copy of this. So that was pretty much it for this past week.
Johnny, can you give me one?
Join the Interscope Vinyl Collective, or talk to Best Coast Music. Maybe you'll be able to get one from
Stacey.
Hey.
You have. Can you get some Cornell for me?
All right, so Jake, anything new arrivals for you this week?
So Stacey is working on getting my Dog's Eye View, Happy Nowhere. I do have a copy. Thank you, Scott. This is my rocker. Once Stacey sends me over that copy, that's a stalker. So that's going to be stocked in the good old PC and chill. Again, those of you who have not listened to Dog's Eye View Happy Nowhere, first time it's ever been issued on wax, get it, listen to it. You'll love it, as I do, as Scott does. Johnny, I think you dig a little Dog's Eye View, yeah, or nay?
I'm not a big listener, but I am familiar with their material, so I'm not opposed to it.
You shouldn't ask him, Jake. He'll tell you they're adult
contemporary.
Contemporary.
You could still say college rock, and that's okay. I love it too.
They're nothing like Vertical Horizon.
Thank you, Johnny and Retta. Little Jeff Buckley live at Olympia was another. And then a copy that I've wanted for the longest time. It's the well-known concert, Pink Floyd performing The Wall at the Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale, New York, 1980. Very excited to get this, listen to it. Pretty historic show. And of course, y'all know me, anything Floyd I can get my hands on, whether it's, an official press, an unofficial press. I don't care. I just love them.
All right. I guess I'm going to go next. I have a bunch of stuff because I did get from the country of Germany some of my RSD titles, and very excited to be able to play these soon. But my wife was very excited about this one. This is Bruce Springsteen, obviously live from Asbury Park. A lot of great songs on that, so we're really excited about that one. I picked up a pretty neat, I wouldn't say it's a great listener, but it's a pretty cool
packaging.
It's all about the packaging. This is a Japanese press, by the way, too. And I'm not sure, I may keep it. I'm not sure. This is kind of not something I would ever listen to, but it is cool with the wedding certificate and all that kind of stuff that's added to the John Lennon's drawings that are in it. It's pretty damn cool. Let's see. Over the weekend, I went all the way to West Virginia to get this record. We got Genesis Invisible Touch, one of my faves. Of course, to complete my red and blue, I had the blue, I needed the red. Also picked up this beautiful gem. This is a U.S. copy of London Calling. I got that from a special place in West Virginia. I also
I hear he sells hot records.
Yeah, I also got that one.
Blistering hot.
And then from Devo in his show, I got this. I should have got his OG Mellow Gold, but someone else bid on it and got it. But I picked up that. Also, I perused the wall over to on the left side of Scott, and I found this gem. And my wife's like, I've heard about that. And she probably heard about it here. I'm not sure. But I picked up that gem. Yes, it was great, Jeremy. Thank you for your hospitality. And it was a lot of fun. We also got the Jeff Buckley. This is right down Johnny's alley.
Best album ever.
This one I've been waiting for about 20 years. We got the Tony Bennett Unplugged. I was listening to that last night. This I got from Cape Cod. I've upgraded my copy. This is a music on vinyl for little toots. Then I picked up, what else did I pick up? I mean, I got a ton of stuff this week.
Damn, Sean, you ought to start selling on Whatnot.
I know, huh? Then Steely Dan, Alive in America, first time on vinyl. Let's see, what else? I picked up this record from Devo for like $3 in his auction. And then I upgraded my cover from Scott later on. And then I bought one at a record store the other day for $1 and I got the hype sticker. So I Frankensteined the best copy ever. And two other things that I need to find out is I picked up an Elton John record with that on it. We don't know. And I don't know, but it could be real. Also, I got this Charlie Daniel record, and this one is very consistent with his autograph. So we'll see. You never know. So those are all the pickups I got this week.
I forgot one ad because I had it stashed in my bin. And that is Paul McCartney's All the Best. This is a U.S. press. I saw Scott and Jim sell a Japanese press.
Yes, they did.
This is one of my favorite records. The only thing that I always question is why Paul didn't take a picture with his Hofner bass. Why is Rickenbacker and not
because he didn't have it. It was missing.
He had more than one Hofner.
Yeah, but it's not the same. It was missing, and it had been recently returned to him.
But the masses don't know that.
We all know that. It's common knowledge.
Had multiples.
All right, so now Scott is going to show you what he's got. I know what he's got there.
Mofi, Pink Floyd. This is courtesy of D&D Collectibles out of Texas. There, they were running a mystery $1 Mofi. Just so happens, before he ran it, he was hiding it. I saw it, so I know exactly what the mystery was. So I grabbed that at a good price. Sean left here with a stack of used records I didn't want. I don't know. He ended up with like 35 or 40, but we ended up making trades, and I got the Michael Jackson #1s for Sean, and I ended up with he brought me that
the last Steely Dan album.
He convinced me this record was jointly owned by Jim and I. It was pulled out of the show because it was probably strong VG-ish, and we were trying to only sell EX stuff in the show. Sean said, "Oh, you ought to keep that." So I appreciate Jim allowing me to buy him out of his half of the record, and I got that.
Unfortunately, it's not the uncensored copy, but we listened for it and we enjoyed what we were listening to. So it was good.
Yeah, it's so loud. It sounded good. It didn't matter that it was strong VG. And just because I like the top, Jake, when we buy Japanese records, every once in a while, you got to slide.
I saw Jim's comment.
You gotta slide one into the person.
Oh yeah, that's right, because it didn't sell that day.
Oz was a promo, Jake. Well, I'll grab that from you, Scott.
Yeah, well, we did Frankenstein that. That's why we had two. We Frankenstein that promo.
Is that the promo or no?
No, we sold the promo with the better Obi. The Obi's a little damaged on this, and
I don't give a damn. I'll grab it from you.
It's not for sale. It's going in my personal collection.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll make it happen. Worldwide dibs, baby.
So, Scott, do you want to say anything about your show? The show with this weekend?
Well, it was just so great. It's been a really terrific time. Like we just did the grunge versus post grunge alternative. We had Jonny and Joshua, and that was a lot of fun. So it's been a pretty intense week of whatnot vinyl community engagement. We had Sean and Devo out here, and Jim was down for a number of days, and we put on Big Show number 3, and it was amazing. I never saw Sean work so hard. He was the keeper of the buy now. He had to label all the buy now. When we opened the buy now, smoke was rolling off that curly headed top of Sean. It was just like boom, boom. As you guys were buying them, Sean was trying to get names on them. I think he even bust out in a sweat a little bit.
No, the first 20 minutes was heck. Other than that, it was a breeze. It was fun. Didn't even feel like work. I mean, it really didn't. And it was a lot of fun.
It was so great to meet Sean. It's the first time I've met Sean in person, but it's weird. It's the same reaction I had when I met Jake. It didn't seem like the first time you were meeting that person. Yeah. But it was great. Now we got to figure out how to get Jake up here for a big show. I don't know if we'll get any work out of him, but we'll get entertained. So
I'll be grabbing items.
Well, it's right. If Devo he is hilarious because he has this. He doesn't have like a little flashlight. He has like this LED 8 million lumens little work light that he can use as a handle, and he's down there like he's blind, looking at every record. He's going through every shelf in that place, looking for records everywhere. It was hilarious.
There is not a record Josh won't look at. He kept looking at like my new arrival, like they're not even unboxed. What about those? I was like, no, you cannot look through those.
No,
he looked through every record in the house, I felt like.
And the cool thing with it too is if you buy from him, his upgrades are usually just minimal. He already has a great copy. He's just going a little bit higher. It's pretty funny watching him go through that, especially with that light. I mean, it looked like he had glaucoma and he needed it. I mean, it was.
But is it in the shrink with the hype?
Yeah, I mean, his light would stop deer dead in the tracks. I mean, it was just that crazy. So it was definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. And Adam is in here, and I told him we're going to have to get Adam down here to cook for the big show.
Have you seen the food porn?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And he said he's in for Austin, so he's a designated chef.
Dude, he's going to be in my backyard. Literally, where he's going to be when he arrives is 3 minutes away from my house.
There you go.
So we'll go do some digging at Piranha and hang out a little bit.
Sounds like fun. All right, so we're at the next part of our show, guys. This is where we know we got to start talking about the essentials again, guys. We have, it's right here. And we're going to start talking about our titles today. And we got some good titles, I think, although I haven't seen their lists. Maybe they have shitty titles. I don't know. I haven't seen their list. But
Sean, you got to start looking at the list, man.
I like to be surprised, just like everyone else, what they chose. But, I mean, I know kind of what they do, but. All right, so we start with our guest, and that's Jonny. What does Jonny have this week?
Okay, so this time on the show, typically I do like a classic, a 90s, and usually something a little bit more heavy. Spoiler alert, all three of mine are kind of heavy albums tonight, but they all are from the 90s as well. But I was looking through the list and I'm like, there's just not enough metal being represented on here. I need to put something on there. So this first one that I'm showing, even though I live by a certain mantra, this album is not from 1994. This album is from 1992. I could have chosen this band's album from 94, but after listening to them both back to back, I think that album was a little bit too abrasive. But the one that I did choose is probably the best entry into a little band called Pantera. This is Vulgar Display of Power from 1992. And so I don't have to hold it. I will put an image up here. So Vulgar Display of Power, like I said, 1992. This is Pantera, the band from Texas. This is actually their 6th studio album. So the band had been around for a while before releasing this particular record. It's the 3rd one with their vocalist Phil Anselmo, And while their previous album, Cowboys from Hell, was kind of their departure from their early glam metal, power metal days, Vulgar Display is where they really kind of fell into their sound. So what they became known for started really with this album. They kind of saw this as an album to fill the gap where they felt that Metallica's Black Album kind of disassociated them from their fans. Metallica really changed their sound, went from thrash to more mainstream. And so Pantera said, well, we're gonna fill that. Something needs to be out there that's heavy. So we're gonna make this album and we're gonna fill those shoes. And I feel like not only filled those shoes at the time, but went on to really develop their own legacy as the metal band of the 90s. This one is consistently cited as one of the most influential metal albums of that decade, and it appears on a ton of best of lists and rankings, usually up near the top. While I don't think this is their heaviest album, that would be their follow-on album from 94, Far Beyond Driven. Again, this is the sound where they really found themselves. Phil Anselmo got rid of the glam metal, the higher vocals that are kind of associated with glam and hair metal, and got to a more like guttural sound on this album. Dimebag Darrell, the guitar hero of our generation. I know, Slash, great guitarist, Eddie Van Halen. You can't do with a guitar what Dimebag Darrell did with a guitar. It's out of this world. Vinnie Paul, his brother, achieves this distinctive drum sound that I, as a drummer, coming up shortly after this band became popular, it's a sound I always chased. It sounds so good. If you like the way drums sound and you want to hear a really good kit, listen to Pantera. And this is probably about as approachable as Pantera can get. Again, it's a heavy metal album, so it's not going to be for everybody. It did sell around 3 million copies worldwide. It made it to number 44 on the Billboard 200, but that actually paved the way for that follow-on album, Far Beyond Driven, to go to number 1 when it debuted. It didn't win any major awards, but like I said, it was on a ton of lists and continues to be kind of revered as this metal classic from the 90s. So my first one for the night is going to be Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power.
Why, thank you.
Jonny, when you talk about the big four, are they automatically in fourth place?
The big four of
grunge,
as far as like a list of Pantera's on?
No, so what's the big four of thrash? I'm not a big thrash. I know it's Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, and who else?
Anthrax.
Why not Pantera? Why was it not 5?
So Pantera, and this is again where we go back to like the grunge discussion we had earlier, like what band is grunge and what makes you grunge. Technically, especially with metal, there's so many subgenres that are so specific. Pantera is not a thrash metal band. They actually kind of pioneered what's called groove metal. So Pantera incorporates a lot of southern rock, bluesy rock riffs into their music. So it is metal and it's heavy, but it's almost got like this bouncy, groovy kind of feel to it. And so it's very different from thrash. Yes, there are some thrash elements on this album in particular, particularly songs like Effing Hostile. It has a more thrash, really fast, rapid drum beat to it, but they're not a thrash band. So they kind of saw their opportunity, like I said, when Metallica kind of moved over to more mainstream heavy metal. They said something needs to be heavy, not necessarily just thrash, but just heavy. And 100%, that's what you get out of this record. It can be abrasive.
Let me ask you a question. So I have never listened to a Pantera record because I have like 3 rules that I will not listen to you. One of them being, if you go too fast, you're not my thing. The other one is if you scream or you growl, you're out the door. So if I was going to try out Pantera, which one? Is there one that would possibly fit my music profile?
So if you're going to from this particular album, I would listen to either Hollow, which is the closer, which is a song about the loss of his friend to a drug overdose. It does get heavy and he does get a little guttural towards the end of the song, but It's much more melodic. This Love, I think, is a really, it juxtaposes itself because it's got very soft verses, but then the choruses are extremely heavy, but it keeps going back and forth. And it has a killer guitar solo too. I would say start with those two songs because from there it just gets even more heavy throughout the album. But Hollow and This Love, and if you can't get anything out of those two, you're probably not going to get anything out of the rest of the record. But if you like those two songs, I think give the rest of the record a chance. It's honestly great from beginning to end. If you like instrumentation, those really groovy guitar riffs, really good drumming. Vinnie Paul is one of the best drummers for just power and aggression from the 90s, hands down. So,
all right. Well, I mean, part of what we're trying to do here is we always encourage people to try to expand your palette. Don't dismiss it. So I get the suspicion Pantera may not be my thing, but I'm going to listen to that record tomorrow and see if it is my thing.
it probably isn't, but thank you.
Scott, it will not be your thing. Because what's going to happen is, and then you're done.
Yeah.
All right, who wants to go next? Jake, Scott, Jake?
Yeah, I can go. I'll follow Jonny because Jonny, you do have the UK press handy, yes? Okay, so my first record is going to be, again, one of my favorite. We're going to go Beatles. It's great that Jonny is here because Jonny could also kind of come into this conversation as well, because I do view Jonny as a Beatles aficionado more so than I. I'm probably more Floyd, more of a Floyd aficionado than I am Beatles, although those two are my favorite bands.
Did you see his shirt? You sure he knows? Not yours, his.
It is kind of weird seeing him wearing a Rolling Stone shirt. I could see Scott wearing a Stone shirt.
But it's the Beatles.
It's the Beatles.
Johnny, I don't know. Johnny, maybe, Retta bought him that shirt. And she's like, you better wear that shirt tonight, Johnny.
I will be honest. I've been eyeing this shirt for almost 3 years at Den Bosch. It's the only place they sell it. And I'm
the
like,
Rolling Stones and it's the Beatles, too. I do like that. So my first album is kind of, what Johnny and I usually debate and fight about, because it is part one of what Johnny would say is a 2-record, part 1 and 2, and that would be the Beatles' Rubber Soul. So there are differences between my original U.S. press and Johnny's UK press. There are different tracks. There are different, song as far as like duration times. The UK press, in my opinion, actually is the better press of tracks, because it starts off with one of my favorite Beatles songs, which is Drive My Car. But this, what I love about Rubber Soul, this is their Free Willin' Bob Dylan. Okay, this album, December 3rd, 1965, released in the UK. December 6th came out in the US with a running time of 34 minutes and 50 seconds long. This is on the Parlophone UK, Capital US labels. This sold worldwide, probably, I would say, estimated anywhere between 8 to 12 million. This really is the first album, really, where the Beatles kind of went away from, you want to say, kind of bubblegum, rock that the Beatles were in their first, several albums.
It's the first time you hear a sitar.
Say again?
It's the first time you hear a sitar on a Beatles record.
Hear a sitar, that is correct, in Norwegian Wood.
Mm-hmm.
And this album is starting to kind of explore different themes, not from the typical kind of love songs, From Me to You, P.S. I Love You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, where we've all seen Anthology, you've all heard Paul McCartney talk about it, where a lot of the songs in the very beginning were written and put towards the audience. Thank You Girl, all of those. This is really when the lyrics really started having meaning, and they started going a different direction, which is why I kind of put it as their Free Willin' Bob Dylan, if you will, which was a record that inspired the Fab Four. And I think that was a big influence on this record. as far as some other notes, they do cite this as one of the formative albums that shifted popular music more towards album-oriented artistic statements, right? This was really starting to begin the trend of the Beatles kind of going away from a lot of the singles they did in the earlier years and started really focusing more on the albums. So my first record, short and sweet, to keep us on track, Beatles Rubber Soul, 1965 U.S. original. Jonny, anything you would like to put on there? Because
I mean, I think you're definitely, you hit it right on the head with the freewheeling and the fact that it was influenced a lot by Bob Dylan. It's their folk album is what I tend to call it.
It is.
And I do kind of consider it almost like the pre-Revolver, because it really does kind of bleed right into that. You've got songs like Girl, where you're getting kind of these marijuana references. They're kind of getting into more of the drug related lyrics and kind of symbolism within the songs. In My Life is on this record, and that song, if nothing else, that carries this record. If you don't like anything else on it, that song
In My Life is basically on that album is what A Day in the Life is for Sgt. Pepper. It's probably the best song on the album, even though I have personal favorites, which is Drive My Car, and I had the CD long before I had the LP, and of course my CD was more on the UK version, not the US.
It's a different. I've heard both versions too, and that was kind of the thing. Before we went live, I was asking Jake, I'm like, are you posing it as just the US version or just Rubber Soul in general? Because that's what was weird about the US and the UK is up until Sgt. Pepper was the first one that they were the same.
Correct.
Up until that point, all of them were different. All the Beatles albums on either side of the pond were
up
different.
To Revolver, correct?
Revolver had songs excluded from it or included. US started making compilations. They would take bits and pieces from different albums, take them off, and make compilations out of it. So that's where you got stuff like Yesterday and Today, Beatles 6, all those type records that didn't exist in the UK. Those were like all the little bits and bobs that they took and some of the singles, and they made albums out of it. It was a marketing thing in the US. But I think Rubber Soul is like, taking both of them, because depending on which one you grew up with is which one you fell in love with.
I love them both, but I love the UK.
Yeah. And so, I think it's a good pick. It's, any Beatles album deserves to be on the list, but Rubber Soul, good choice.
Thank you.
All right, Scott.
Well, that's our 5th Beatles record. I think I'm going to limit the inclusion.
More are coming, Scott.
No, one more is coming, Jake. You get one more. Spend it wisely.
Johnny's going to be on a few times too, so it's happening.
Jonny didn't pick any Beatles. He didn't pick any Beatles this time. I do want to say back to like a little bit of my role here, and I try to do some curation, but I try to give people a wide berth on what they pick, because we're not necessarily doing the 50 best. It's like if you were going to hand a bunch of records to people to give them a fairly broad exposure to mainly rock and roll. I'll say we do focus on rock. What would you give them? And through having the rotating seat of the guest panelist, I really am counting on people. I didn't talk to Jonny, but I love what he did tonight, because he did fill a hole that was, missing. Just like we're a little light on hip hop and we don't have rap, so we need some guests to maybe bring some of that. We need a little more jazz. So, one of the things I do is weekly, I kind of look and I go back and try to, I think all of us, we identify stuff that absolutely needs to get on here, and, we'll put it on. So tonight I'm putting one on, and I went back and forth. This group needs to be there, and that's the Stooges self-titled debut. Iggy Pop. I'm a big Iggy Pop fan. Came to it later in life. 1969, I was not listening to the Stooges. And interesting thing about this record is it didn't sell hardly anything when it came out. but it's become a big catalog seller. It's really inclusion on the list is probably primarily for its influence and what came later. And to me, like punk comes in, I'm going to say like 5 different flavors, and the faster punk tends to be what I don't like. I just don't like when people get going too fast. It doesn't matter what subgenre they're in. What I like about the Stooges and Iggy Pop is there's always a good groove. You know, it's raw. You know, the guitars are out there. It's not polished. And, you know, on this album is, you probably heard the song I Want to Be Your Dog. I almost went with the Raw Power as the record because I think you get a broader taste of what Iggy Pop and the Stooges were about. But this is where it's all started. So I set it on the Stooges, get us a little more punk on here. Like I said, it's probably, even today, it's probably only sold 300,000 or 400,000 copies. But you hear so many different artists say they were influenced by Iggy Pop and the Stooges. So that's my pick for the week.
And MC, and of course with the Stooges, it was MC5 and kind of tagged along was Iggy Pop and the Stooges kind of tagged along with MC5 at that same time from the same location. They were in the same circles, and when they were signing MC5, they kind of came along with them. So
I think the best thing Iggy did was Lust for Life.
Lust for Life is a good one.
Album.
You know, but you just really, if you're thinking of punk, like you got the skater boy punk. I don't really love that, you know. But if you're thinking about punk and you want to hear, you know, you need to check out the Stooges and the Ramones. You need to hear where some of this came from. And I like the Stooges better than the Ramones. I like the Ramones, but I like the Stooges better.
The Ramones, I think, I don't dislike them, but I kind of felt that a lot of the stuff was very repetitive.
Yeah.
It all sounded the same.
The best thing about it,
a lot of punk songs are like that.
The best thing about Ramones is none of the songs are longer than like 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
They're quick.
So if you don't like it, just hang around. It's a cool change.
all right. So my first selection, and believe it or not, on May 16th, this record turned 60. This is, you guys all know the especially the 3 main songs. You guys all know it. You've heard it. You've seen it in movies like crazy. This is the world. This is kind of like a world changer right here. Beach Boy, Pet Sounds. It didn't sell. It sold like 2 or 3 million, maybe 3 to 5 million worldwide at that point. At this point now, it's got to be so far above that. They're gonna print 3 million this year, because again, there's a lot of presses. They're doing the 60th anniversary. Everyone wants the mono version. Luckily, like Scott mentioned one earlier, that's going to be in mono and stereo with the vinyl file. So if you don't have this, look at that and pick it up. But the singles on this was Sloop John B was their biggest one on here. It reached the top 20. God Only Knows and Wouldn't It Be Nice were the big songs on there. This is what they call a landmark album with Brian Wilson's project. This is the I don't want to describe this. I mean, it is an amazing album. Critics and everyone, fellow musicians, this influenced so many people afterwards. I mean, it's the Beach Boys. This is what I don't know. What do you guys want to say about it? Because I'm kind of losing my mind.
So I mean, this was his. This was kind of during the time, right, when Brian Wilson, more or less, when they. When the rest of the band obviously went on tour, Brian Wilson was done touring, and this was his opportunity to basically get in the studio and write and have material ready for the guys when they would come back in the studio ready to go. A lot of the musicians that they used were obviously from the Wrecking Crew. You had Hal Blaine on drums. You had so many other musicians that were staples that were on every record you could probably think of during the mid to late 60s. And he basically, had the studio, in his grasp, right, in his grip. So this album really kind of goes to show and kind of puts the genius that is Pet Sounds. I mean, Paul McCartney, it's one of his favorite albums one of the most influential albums that, he bought for his son because it was such a, and still is to this day to him, one of his favorite albums that he ever listened to. It's different, right? Unlike a lot of the earlier Beach Boys stuff, very avant-garde, if you will, but it's so unique, and it was completely different from anything that was coming out during that time.
Yeah, I've always had one part of me that kind of categorized the Beach Boys as gimmicky, but they have two of the best pop songs ever in "Wouldn't It Be Nice" and "Good Vibrations." Those are just killer. I mean, amazing compositions. I always like it when a pop song makes me go, "What? Who is that? What is that?" I think the last time I had that feeling, I was in Best Buy, and this first time I ever heard "Rolling in the Deep." I didn't know who it was, but I was just like, "Who is this?" So when pop gets it right, I can criticize pop because they get it wrong probably more than they get it right. But when it's done right, it's amazing. And I think this album, it's a great record, but Wouldn't It Be Nice is such a great song.
Yeah. And a lot of the bass, a lot of the stuff that you hear, Carol Kay, probably one of the most, I think, underrated bass players ever. Studio musician, the bass riffs that she's got on many records. She is influential musician and then some. Probably doesn't get the credit that she deserves. She was a phenomenal musician. She's still with us too. So,
Jake, you've made the argument in the past before that Sgt. Pepper doesn't exist without Revolver, but Sgt. Pepper honestly does not exist without Pet
Sounds.
Pet Sounds was true. The reason that Paul McCartney was driven to write and kind of conceptualize a lot of what Sgt. Pepper was.
Hold up, though, Johnny. Pet Sounds doesn't exist without Revolver.
Look, we're not talking about. We're only talking about 1 degree of separation here. That's all we're doing. So, but no, it speaks volumes to the impact that this album had on not only the mass public but other musicians as well. And when other musicians take note of your work, that says something, especially when those artists are people like Paul McCartney. So, yeah, that's good choice with Pet Sounds.
And people don't forget, right? Glenn Campbell was also part of the Wrecking Crew as well, and he also did tour with the Beach Boys for a period of time also.
But not as cool as John Stamos. All right, so we're back around to Johnny with his second pick.
Okay, so this one does get the banner. So this one does come from 1994.
Yes, the greatest year.
1971.
What we're talking about here is an album that I talked about groove metal with Pantera. We're going to talk about industrial rock or industrial metal here. This album, the first time I heard this was the first album I heard from this particular artist, and it really opened my eyes up and made me want to go back and listen to the back catalog and stick with this group for many years. And I'm talking about 9 Inch Nails, and the album I'm talking about is The Downward Spiral.
There you go.
This album, we talked about in our grunge conversation earlier that grunge was kind of dark, dealt a lot with subjects like drug abuse and heroin, and just didn't go into very many happy places. This album absolutely does not go into any happy places. It's not a make you feel good album, but it's a make you think album. I love concept albums that can actually stick the landing, and The Downward Spiral is 100% a concept album following an individual through multiple tragic situations between drug abuse and depression, relationships, religion, and ending in a very dark place by the end of the album. But it's a journey that, even though it may not be a fun one, It's one that really just captivates you and makes you want to listen to the whole thing. It is an album that I suggest listening to in its entirety. There are songs that were released as singles off of this record, but it's a cover to cover listen to really get out of it what needs to be gotten out of it. This album, as abrasive as it is, sold over 4.5 million copies worldwide. It debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200. No major awards from the Grammys or anything like that, but again, it's kind of like with Pantera, it has appeared on numerous publication lists and all-time best of lists. It was produced by Trent Reznor, who is basically Nine Inch Nails. He brings in a couple of musicians to help with these records, but it's really him that does this. Where was I going with this? Okay, so we're talking about it being a concept album. I talked about all the subjects that it tackles throughout. I think that the real mastery of this work, I call this a work more than it's just an album, is when an artist can take you down a path and tell you a story and make you understand it, even though you've never experienced it yourself, and you can really get something out of it. To me, that speaks volumes for that artist. Whether it's Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails talking about the things that he talks about on Downward Spiral, or if it's someone like, I know I've had the conversations with Scott about albums like Jagged Little Pill. Like, I'm not a female, but Alanis makes me understand a little bit more through good storytelling and songwriting what she's trying to convey. I've never done drugs in my life, so I shouldn't be able to relate to this album, but I understand it and I can get out of it what Trent's trying to convey. Again, not a lot of singles off of it. You had Closer, which everybody probably, if you were around in the 90s, you know, the song about wanting to do things like an animal, that's that song. You're probably familiar, if not with this album, I guarantee you know one of the songs off of it because Johnny Cash covered it and made it huge, and that's Hurt. This is I'm not going to say it's not theatrical like something like The Wall or Tommy. It is very down and dirty, but if you experience it once, you'll understand kind of why I'm suggesting that this go on the list of 500. This is Nine Inch Nails, Downward Spiral from 1994.
That's a great pick, Johnny. And I would say, you know, while not in the sweet spot for my music profile, I enjoy that album. And it's because it does have this cohesiveness to it and just grit. And I mean, it's hard to describe Nine Inch Nails in general, you know, but that album is, that's one I really like. I do like that.
The three that I really like, obviously the Fragile, Downward Spiral, and Pretty Hate Machine are probably the three that I have on constant rotation. The three that I really enjoy the most. I do like Broken, but I think those three albums, I don't know. You know, I mean, he when you think industrial rock, Trent Reznor is industrial rock. There's really nobody that.
Yeah, I was trying to think of another one.
Right?
Like, who's another industrial rocker?
There's no one that touches him. It's like reggae. There's Bob Marley and a bunch of other musicians that are doing reggae, but it's not Bob Marley. Trent Reznor is kind of the same way with industrial rock, right? There's
when you're talking industrial rock, you could look at bands like Ministry.
Yes.
You could look at even Filter's first album, which Richard Patrick was in Nine Inch Nails, so it kind of makes sense that Filter kind of sounded industrial on that first album. Gravity Kills, a little bit of Stabbing Westward was a little bit industrial as well. I would even venture to say stuff like White Zombie and Rob Zombie has a lot of industrial influences. Not like this. This album in particular, Downward Spiral, there are songs that literally sound like machines. It's almost a dirty sounding album, which when saying that, it makes it sound like, oh, it's probably really lo-fi. It's very well produced. It's meant to sound the way it sounds.
Well, industrial is perfect. It's like Lyle is saying that, like, you could see yourself in an old downtown section of industrial complexes abandoned. You know what I mean? That's maybe the greatest title for a subgenre ever.
It describes it perfect. And if you've never listened to it, just put it in. You'll know within the first probably 45 seconds if this is going to be your thing, because the very first track on this starts with I think it's the sound of like a guy getting beat, and then it goes just right in your face immediately with this very like just gritty industrial sound. And it's definitely an album that will make you turn your head and pay attention. So yeah, that's what I've got for it.
All right, thank you.
My second record is an album I listened to in which I was blessed enough to go with kind of like a big sister of mine, a family friend that I always looked at as a big sis. I got to see him in concert that summer, and for the longest time, it was probably the best concert, best performance I'd ever seen. And I saw him in Dallas. And I still think about it, and I wish I would have seen him in concert more than just the one time I saw him. And this is Peter Gabriel's Us, which came out in September of 1992. It's got a runtime of just under an hour. It's got, the singles. One of my favorite songs, obviously, that got the most record play was Digging in the Dirt. But you also had Steam, which Steam was basically kind of a continuation of Sledgehammer. If you really listen to both of them, you can kind of pick up the similarities, but it's kind of a continuation to me. You've also got Kiss That Frog, Blood of Eden, which has Paula Cole singing backing vocals with him. Very similar to Don't Give Up, where he had Kate Bush singing with him. He always had some lovely female artists with him singing backing vocals and kind of bring them to the forefront. And Kate Bush, just the small part she had on that song, made the song. Paula Cole compliments him extremely well on it. And then one of my favorite songs that I wrote down here that's actually not on the list is Secret World, which is the last track on the album. And I just love it, and the thing about this record is worldwide it sold, I think, about 4 or 5 million copies, and who knows what it's sold since then. Peter Gabriel is kind of known for taking a long time to make records, right? Between So and Us. So was released in 1986. Us came out at the tail end of 1992. He did tour, obviously, So for a while. Did Passion of the Christ and some soundtracks and stuff like that, but he was always known for really taking a long time to get the music right, to put the album out. And this was a great follow-up to So. A lot of the themes in this album, I don't think that Us was really a happy record per se. I think a lot of this dealt with the loss of his marriage. So he was, losing a marriage of many years. He had obviously, relationship struggles with his wife. I think he had issues also at the time with his daughter as well. So there was a lot of, identity stuff going on.
Wait, I mean Phil Collins or him?
No, Peter Gabriel.
The same problems.
Same problems, right? But, because he married very young. I believe. And when he left Genesis after The Lamb, right? After The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, there was a lot of stuff going on because the birth of his daughter, he was gone a lot while the band was really trying to kind of get the album going. He was absent a lot, and it just came to a point where,
and then there was 3.
Right. He took off, right? So, but it's, again, it's kind of the typical Peter Gabriel album that continues on a lot of those, kind of very similar to Paul Simon with Graceland, kind of take a lot of those beats, right? Kind of a lot of the African beats and kind of putting them in a lot of the songs. But
that's my question for you, Jake. I mean, and that Paul Simon record is a good example. I have Graceland. I don't need Rhythm of the Saints.
But I like Rhythm of the Saints. I think it's a good record. It's not Graceland.
But hold on. Like, we already have So. Why do we need So 2 on the list? Because why not one of the earlier Gabriels, which was a little more adventuresome?
Because
I just feel like
think
you said, let's make the same record again.
So here's the thing. No, I don't think. Well, I think you're going to find similarities with a lot of bands and a lot of the albums, right? I do think that there are differences. In fact, I would probably tell you to grab So and grab Us, listen to them. I think Us is a little bit more produced, and I think there are some differences, although I will agree there are similarities. Steam is very similar to Sledgehammer in some ways, but I do think that it is a different record. Why I think I chose this over, 1, 2, and 3 is I think 1, 2, and 3 had a couple of good songs on each album. But I think when Gabriel really started getting good is when Gabriel 4, aka Security, came out. He started transitioning. And I think at Security, that's really where I got into Peter Gabriel.
I think Security is his second best record. I mean, it's not a bad record. But I just like I don't really like Frontiers, because I was like, Journey went in and said, let's make a carbon copy of Escape. That's not as good.
Sure.
Rhythm of the Saints, the same thing. I'm like, come on, move a little farther away from you playing it safe.
I put Security as number 3. I still put Us over Security, although I love Security. I love Lay Your Hands on Me. I love Shock the Monkey, which really was my first introduction into Peter Gabriel, because the video played on MTV nonstop.
Cheryl's probably, our good friend Cheryl's probably typing a message right now and say, Scott, shut up. You're wrong. See, that is not so. I knew she'd be after me.
It's not, but I see where you're coming from. Like there are similarities. The same thing with Rubber Soul to Revolver, right? There's a part 1 and a part 2. I just think that Us was an extension, and I think a deeper dive, into the music. I think musically.
All right, so it's settled. It's So 2.0.
I don't think so.
I think she said not
your argument.
So 2.0.
I get your argument.
Oh, my bad.
There you go. Jake defended that well, I think.
And
Lily,
plausible job.
And help.
Like, I'll let him slide.
I got to make him work for it a little bit. As soon as he submitted that record, I knew what my comment was going to be on the show.
I mean, they're both 2-letter words, Us and So. I mean, how creative is that?
Yeah, he couldn't even change the title. At least he didn't call it Peter Gabriel.
That's true. And then we all had to make up names for the albums.
But I am going to get my hands on it. I do have, and I'm very excited about it. I am going to get it. A dear buddy of mine, has got a Gabriel signed, Peter Gabriel 1. So the Car or Wet, however you want to name it. I am there's something about Peter Gabriel. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something about him that really kind of draws me to him. Right. He's just, he's just a very attractive being, right? Just as far as how he writes his music, how he sings. Otis Redding was a huge influence to Peter Gabriel. And if you listen to a lot of Peter Gabriel singing earlier songs, like pre-Genesis and early Genesis, and even some of the stuff he does later, you hear Otis Redding. You hear a lot of those influences that he was into. But he's a very fascinating individual. And I even love the way he autographs stuff. Like a lot of the things that he autographs, he'll write, "Hello, Peter Gabriel." I just think it's the coolest damn thing. I just like the communication. I like the acknowledgement. I like the hello with a name. It's very simple, but it communication that means so much.
All right. Is it me, Jake?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
it is you.
It is you.
All right. So Cheryl says, I said it's not. Cheryl, you should know I will lie to win an argument. So, all right. So I'm gonna go with my classic rock pick here. So we don't have this record in, and I think it's going to be the only record of hers that makes it, but it's going to be Stevie Nicks' Belladonna. And it's probably coming out of Fleetwood Mac, and if you know, like Stevie Nicks is kind of known for her songs starting out as poems, and then she puts some loose, she has some melodies in her head. She's not I won't say she doesn't play instruments, but I've always taken that she's not proficient in any instrument. And, a lot of people probably thought, well, it's Lindsey Buckingham that really crafts her songs into what they become. And there's probably a little bit of truth of that in Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, but her voice is her instrument, and what a beautiful
and
voice
her
it is.
lyrical imagery is really amazing. And I just want to show this because I've got, I think, 3 different presses, if not 4 of this record, but this VMP press, I don't know if it'll show up. It's Midnight Blue and Black. It's really a cool press. And added bonus, it sounds terrific. I mean, VMP did a great job on this. But loaded up with songs you're going to love, and the duet. She's good friends with Mike Campbell of the Heartbreakers. Stop Dragging My Heart Around. Apparently, when she was looking for songs and Mike was sharing with her pieces, because Mike Campbell's a proficient songwriter too, of things they had. I don't know what song it was, but he shared a song with her that was going to be on her album, and they even recorded it. And Petty said, "Not that one."
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know which song it was. I guarantee it was probably a big hit for the Heartbreakers, but they came up with instead "Stop Dragging My Heart Around." So you got the Heartbreakers and Tom Petty's on that. Great song. The duet with Don Henley, who we found out later she was in a relationship with, Leather and Lace. Good song. Think About It. Great song. That was originally going to be a Fleetwood Mac song that Christine McVie was going to sing, but they didn't get it finished for the Fleetwood Mac record. But to me, the gem on here is I love the fact that she included a rock song on here. Edge of 17, one of the greatest rock songs. And, while she didn't have Lindsey, and I mean, is anybody better than Mick Fleetwood on the drums? I love his drumming style. She put together some terrific supporting players on this record. I got to look here. I had it up. The guitar, so Russ Kunkel on drums, very famous session guy, played for Jackson Browne, a lot of different people. Waddy Wachtel on guitar.
Good old Waddy.
And
didn't Waddy play with Keith Richards too?
Yeah.
He's played with everybody.
And Bob Glaub on bass. She had Benmont Tench on organ, and Roy Bittan on piano. So she had plenty of firepower there. And it comes up, the songs are, not overproduced. They're well produced, but not overproduced, because that would have taken some of the edge off the record. And even though this is just a straight up middle of the road rock record, it retained some edginess. So I'm sure everybody knows about this record, but if you don't, check it out. It's definitely the strongest Stevie Nicks record, and has stood the test of time, and still getting repressed audio file. That's why I've got so many pressings of it. I'm still trying to figure out which one's the best, but add it to your collection, or give it a listen. Let's say if you haven't listened to that record.
Isn't it true that she wanted to be a part of the Heartbreakers?
Yeah, she did. She was trying to talk Petty, and Petty just didn't see it.
Yeah, no,
and it's not a surprise. That explains, why Mike Campbell and Neil Finn, the great Neil Finn, ended up filling in for Lindsey after she basically got him kicked out of the band.
And there's a lot of pain there. I mean, over 50 plus years.
Well,
But man, what great music they made.
I mean, some of it's deserved. Like if somebody writes "Go Your Own Way" about you and with some very pointed lyrics, that's probably hard to get over that one. You got to play it every night in concert.
It goes both ways. They were all getting at each other, man.
Yeah.
A lot of yayo. Too much yayo.
I think too much Coke.
Yeah, too much yayo.
Yeah. All right. So I'm up next. This album, I never really listened to it much back in the day. I really very little listened to it, but recently I was listening to it, and then I also thought it should be into the essential. It is one of the top 10, maybe. It's one of the most essential progressive metal albums out there. It's also it's basically a rock opera, basically, right? The album is, and of course, I was looking at AI, and it thinks it's a completely different album. And my pick for this one is Queensryche Operation Mindcrime. I wouldn't say there's any major hit on here, but it did get a Grammy nomination for best metal performance for "I Don't Believe in Love." But it's basically about the protagonist. His name is Nicky. He starts off, he's basically in a coma in a hospital, and then the evil Dr. X gets a hold of him and uses him to assassinate people, basically. But it's an interesting story, but also a great album. And of course, I'm looking at the AI, and it has silent lucidity. I'm looking, going,
nope, wrong record.
Yeah, I'm like, what? I'm looking, going, I don't remember silent lucidity on this. That's on Empire, which came out 2 years after this. So when they were touring with Empire, touring for the Empire album, they would sing this album in its entirety during the tour. It is a great album, and definitely give it a listen. I ignored it back in '88. I was so Guns N' Roses that I don't think anything else mattered to me. And that was unfortunate, because I think I would have loved this, listening to it back then. So give that a listen.
Well, Sean, sometimes I think of Queensryche as a band that like people are forgetting, but then you saw on the show on Saturday night, we had some Queensryche records, and people were bidding the heck out of those things. And I don't go deep in their catalog, but I do have Operation Mindcrime and I have Empire, and I really like both those. They're
Empire
very different.
Silent Lucidity is probably my favorite Queensryche song, and a lot of that is because it sounds very Pink Floydish.
It sounds very and Jeff Tate has a killer voice. I mean, his voice is outstanding.
He's got an instrument, man.
And he had to convince the band to do this album too. They weren't into it, but they had to slowly convince them one by one to do this album.
Well, it's a good thing he did, because it's considered their masterpiece. So
yeah,
that's a good pick for them.
Yeah, because it's referenced to like the Who's Quadrophenia and even Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, because it is that kind of rock opera.
Well, you got a little bit of redemption. I mean, it's going to take a long, long road, Sean, to make up for the Muppets, but
I stand by my Muppets choice. I stand by it. Everyone knows this Rainbow Connection. Everyone smiles when they hear it. Makes the world happy. It's like the Coca-Cola song you want to teach the world to sing. Everyone knows it. Mm-hmm. I stand by the Muppets.
Yeah, we're going to take that to closing arguments one episode.
All right, so we're back around to the last record for Jonny, and let's see what it is.
All right, so this one, we're not in '94 anymore, but we are still in the '90s. This one, so the comment was made in the chat earlier about, hey, we need some prog. So this is technically prog. It's progressive metal, and there's connections. So like what Sean was just talking about with Queensryche being a bit progressive, so you got a tie in there. There's also going to be a tie in with Peter Gabriel's Us on this one as well, believe it or not. So we're in 1996. We're looking at an album that sold about 4 million copies worldwide. It got to number 2 on the Billboard 200. It got to number 1 on the Billboard Top Rock Albums. It is a Grammy winner as well. So this album is probably the deepest of the three that I've shown tonight. And if you don't listen, if you're like, I don't want to listen to any of this heavy stuff that Jonny's recommending, I implore you to please listen to this album, because this is a life-changing type album, and I'm not exaggerating. This is AEnema from Tool. This album is a cerebral experience. It's not just an album you listen to for some pretty cool tunes. This is a very deep album that gets into the soul and a lot of like Carl Jung type of mentality and theories and symbolism. This, like I said, won a Grammy for Best Metal Performance for the title track, AEnema. Speaking of the title track, the name of this album, AEnema is a combination of two words. The word directly, anima, starting with an A, is Latin for the soul, like your deeper existential soul. And then the word enema, which I think we all know what an enema is. So this is an album that this is a cleansing of the soul. And it was their second studio album, their full-length studio album. They started their discography with an EP, which I think is amazing. They followed that with Undertow, which was their first album in 93. And then you had this album that came out in 96. It was a progression from Undertow, which was more a straightforward metal album. This was definitely a step in a different direction, became very progressive, and was kind of I consider it like a bridge album between that metal sound from Undertow and then what they were eventually going to do on albums like Lateralis, which became a lot more complex with time signatures and progressive elements. This is a good blending of the two. It's not so progressive that it turns you off because it's so all over the place, but it's also not a straightforward metal album either. There's a lot more depth to this, to the material here. This is the first album with their current bass player, Justin Chancellor, who has been with the band ever since. There are 6 interlude tracks on here. It's about the only thing I will say is a kind of a turn off with this particular record is there's all these interlude tracks that kind of, they don't really mean much. They're just there, but it's one of Tool's little, they're always trying to push some kind of boundary, and this album ended up being 77 minutes long.
Wow.
Which puts it about 3 minutes from completely filling up a compact disc. So they were just trying to push the limits of what they could do with this album. The guitarist for this band, Adam Jones, is also a special effects guy in Hollywood. He does a lot of like stop motion animation. He worked with Stan Winston. He did their music videos.
Videos are great.
Yeah, the videos are something that, they will definitely stick with you if you watch those. And one of the videos from this album, that title track of AEnema, that won Best Metal Performance at the Grammys. He also, Adam Jones, the guitarist, also designs all of their packaging, all of the album cover, all of the inserts. This album was nominated for a Grammy for Best Record Packaging and lost to a jazz swing compilation called Ultra Lounge that was packaged in a fuzzy leopard jewel case. This album, now the record itself does not, the LP doesn't offer all of the crazy packaging the CD did. The CD for this album had a lenticular jewel case, and you could interchange the what do you call it, the booklet, and different images with that lenticular case would actually, you have like a motion effect. And it's little things like that make the album more of an experience than just listening to the music. It's been on all kinds of lists. It's been ranked highly between guitar magazines, drum magazines. The drummer for this band, Danny Carey, is phenomenal. He does things with a drum set that
those time signatures are crazy.
Yes, it is insane. This is really the album where he started experimenting with that. It gets even more crazy as Tool goes on with their discography, but this album is kind of where he really starts getting really adventurous with his time signatures. I mentioned there's a connection with Peter Gabriel's Us. This album was produced by Tool and a guy named David Bottrell. David Bottrell was the sound engineer on Us. So you have a little bit of a connection there.
So
and he actually went on to work with Tool on their follow-on album from this Lateralis as well. This is an album that you have to immerse yourself in when you listen to it. The way it's produced, the way everything was recorded, the lyricism, the instrumentation, the musicianship of this band is hands down just so different from everything in the 90s. So if you haven't ever listened to Tool, this is a fantastic place to start. Highly recommend you give a listen to AEnema from Tool.
how much did that record cost?
You don't.
That's not an That's not an OG, is it, Johnny?
That is the OG. Yes.
Oh my God!
Has it gotten a good reissue or
No?
No. I also have a counterfeit,
Unofficial.
unofficial pressing of it. But yeah, that is the OG. I picked that up a few months ago. They're not. They're in the four digits. They're pricey.
They're like 1,500 plus all day.
So I had two questions for you, Johnny. One is, what is up with Tool not reissuing their records? And two, while they went on to win a Grammy for that, I'd like to bang on critics whenever I can. The critics didn't get this record when it came out. The reviews were they're positive now because they always have the ability to rewrite their review. But do you think they just didn't get it? Like, why were the reviews very mixed on this? Do you have a theory?
I don't know. Can you still hear me? Because my screen's frozen.
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear
Hear
you.
you. Yes.
Okay, so you can hear me, but I'm frozen. So as far as the reissuing of their back catalog, Tool, I don't know if they just purposefully troll their fan base, or what the reasoning is, if it's a licensing thing. I know there's been a lot of legal issues between the band members and the record label, because this was when they were on Zoo. It may be something to do with licensing. It may just be something to do with the fact that they know their fans want it. And they're just going to deny them. It's interesting the way they go about their marketing strategy. As far as like the mixed criticism on this album, the Academy, I take the Academy's choices with a grain of salt a lot of times myself.
Yeah.
The fact that, I find it interesting when these metal bands actually do get nominated for things, and like actually who they consider to be metal, because there were probably some other acts they could have nominated, or probably who were nominated at the time that were probably more metal than Tool. But it's something to see a song like AEnema that's almost 7 minutes long. It's about 6.5, 6:45, and it's, again, like you were saying, it's got odd time signatures. It's really kind of a cerebral type of song. It talks about the cleansing of California and California breaking off into the ocean and learn to swim, and it's very nihilist. And to see that win a Grammy Award is kind of shocking. I think this album has grown I think its infamy is in its scarcity. I think that it is, considered a very, very complex musical album, but I think a lot of the hype around this record has come from the fact that it is very hard to get, and it's kind of a collector type of grail as much as it is a fantastic listen. I would actually implore everyone to listen to this record. The stuff that comes after this is a little bit more difficult to listen to because it requires very much your attention, and the stuff before it was a little bit more sophomoric. This is kind of that sweet spot with Tool, so which is why I bring it to the list tonight.
That was a great
I don't know
pick.
what's wrong with my camera.
That was a great pick, Johnny. I remember the day it came out. I went to the record store, bought the CD, and I remember the LP they had basically put up on the shelf. And I remember grabbing the CD and looking up at the record. And I said this. I looked up and I'm like, why would I want to buy a record, a Tool record, but I got a CD right here. Who buys a record?
There you go. Welcome
And 5 years later, I mean, I was, 4 years later, I think 2000 is when I started. But if I would have just gone back, grabbed the CD, and grabbed the record,
back. I think we all can say that about a lot of records
I
right
know,
now.
right?
When
Yeah.
Because at that time, I never thought that, that vinyl would come back the way that it has.
correct.
Over
Yeah.
the last, 28 years, but it's just crazy, right? When you see those, like that thing looks pristine. It's beautiful. I actually thought it was an unofficial that you had.
Yeah. No, the only thing about it is that little notch cut at the bottom.
Has a soul cut.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
Oh
I
my
know.
gosh! Can you imagine?
Wow. Well, continuing on with the prog theme, this was kind of an important record for me because a couple things. Number one, it was a conversation I had with Scott where after Sean's closing arguments crap, or what was it, Scott? What was the new segment?
Unpopular opinion.
Unpopular
whatever.
opinion. Yeah.
Crap. Where he just basically is like, Pink Floyd, I don't get it. I was like, we should have a couple of segments to basically just push that segment away. And one of the ideas was going out, right? Whether you have them or maybe you find them in the wild, are albums that are good that you probably never had your hands on or listened to that people should probably get their hands on and listen to. This last record I'm presenting is one of those records. I don't think a ton of copies were pressed. It has been reissued. And this artist, this was his only full-length solo album. He did one more record, but it was a Christmas record that he did like in 2007. And his original album came out in 1975 when he was originally on hiatus from his band. The other band members basically kind of went on and did their own solo projects. His was one of them. And from some of the solo projects that I've listened to, I'm going to be honest with you. I think that his album is the best of the solo efforts. Now, this is Scott Knight's, as he said, probably the 2,750th best prog album. But a lot of people don't get too much into prog, right? But it's an album worth noting because it's actually better than some Yes records. And the record I'm talking about, the jacket's a bit damaged, but that is Chris Squire's Fish Out of Water, which was released in March of 1975. It's only 5 songs, y'all. And it has a running time of about 40 minutes. I think right at like 38 minutes. He's got one song called Silently. What is it? Oh God, I'm brain farting. I'll tell you, I'll just cheat and look. Where are you? Where are you? Silently Falling. Thank you. So I keep wanting to say Silently Standing, but Silently Falling, which is over 11 minutes long. My favorite song actually on the record is Lucky 7. And man, I'm going to tell you something about this album. When you listen to it, and I urge all of you, prog might not be your thing. Scott definitely had his opinions. I'll let him express his opinions because he was kind enough to listen to it and give me his review. And I knew he wouldn't hate it. I think he liked it a bit. But thank you, Tucker. This is up there with pretty much just about any Yes record, better than some of the later Yes records. It's a hidden gem. And I think y'all should really give it an opportunity because it is a record that I think a lot of us do not have. And I came across it because I knew Chris Squire was the bassist for Yes. And I'm like, oh, wow, Chris Squire has a solo record? Didn't know that. I bought this thing probably, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I just came across it cleaning some stuff out. And I listened to it. And man, the bass riffs are just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And that is that's my kind of, new segment, right? Finding a record that I haven't listened to in a long time that probably a lot of people don't have in their collection, but I would put it up with a lot of the Yes records. It's really good. And you do really hear, just the songs themselves. It is a prog record. It's got some jazz themes. It has barely any electric guitar. There's just 2 quick parts where he actually plays the guitar himself, comes in, and that's it. But everything else is saxophone, bass, drums, keyboards, organs. It's got some orchestral, parts as well. But I think it's a beautiful album for the 5 songs that he put together. And you really do, in listening to this, he is a very influential and important part of Yes. And you basically, his sound, right, is a huge part of Yes's success and what they've done.
All right, Jake. So Jake laid this one out there. I'd never heard of this record. I knew who Chris Squire was. All right, we're gonna go soundtrack theme here. Good, bad, and ugly. The good. It was interesting from the standpoint to be able to clearly hear what Chris
His
Squire
voice
contributes to Yes. And definitely it some of these songs could have been easily on a Yes record.
Yep.
When he sings, oh, you're like, yes, I've heard that background voice in Yes for years and years. Yes, it's identify. So that's the good. The other good thing is I made it all the way through the record. And then the bad. I think the thing I would say, the other good is Tucker mentioned this. The orchestral arrangements are beautiful. They sound good.
They are.
The bad is just the part that to me it's unremarkable, and the ugly was during
Silently Falling.
There is like a 3.5 minute section of that song where you're just getting the same keyboard and bass riff. And I literally I was listening to it while I had to go to a work meeting. I was said out loud, can we move on? Because that's my complaint about prog is they do a lot of navel gazing. Like, I'm sure you want to hear this riff for 3 minutes in a row. No, I do not. I did, let's move on.
I'd like to hear that for 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
So you're saying no?
He is.
Well,
I think
to a member of Yes.
In between, I think he is in between, right? And that was the goal. I knew Scott wouldn't come back like he did when I told him to listen to Wolfgang Amadeus Phoenix. I knew he would love that album. But I knew with this, because I've always known that Scott's like, is he prog's #1 fan? No, but like I knew he would listen to it, and I knew he would pick out what the good is, and then probably find something just to crap all over me on. But
well, that's what this is all about. It's give it a listen. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't, but you give it a fair listen.
Right. And it did again, the music itself, I mean, just 5 songs. And again, it's not an hour-long record. It's under 40 minutes.
Well,
and
I also looked it up when I got back home. I looked it up, and it's exactly the comment I read was exactly what Tucker said. Was a lot of people refer to it as the hidden secret Yes album. Yeah,
that is correct. A lot of people, and there are a couple of songs from this album that they actually would do as a band when they toured. So he got to actually go out And it wasn't just John Anderson singing. He was able to actually sing a couple of his own songs that they put into their
Well,
set.
maybe if Steve Howe and there was electric guitar, maybe I would have liked it better. But like when the guitar came on, I was like, "Oh my god, a guitar!"
But it's so quick. It is so fast. It's there and it's gone.
All right, guys, give it a listen. And
I'm gonna
tell us
show
what
it
you
one more
think.
time. Snapshot, y'all. Chris Squire, Fish Out of Water, 1975 U.S. original press.
And tell us what you guys think, and you can always share it on our Discord. What do you think of Jake's choice, and do you agree with Scott, or do you agree with Jake on this one?
Well, again, I think that we should all do this. Y'all know, in like my shows on Whatnot, the one thing that I love talking about, and I think should be a segment on this show, right, is, are the albums or songs that we listen to that we know damn well our buddies would probably hang us if they knew we'd listen to them, which mine always was Duncan Sheik. Still love the guy, still love his first two records. I will sing it to the heavens, but we all have that album or albums. We all have that one artist or band, right? That we love, that like everybody would just never think, oh, Jonny would never like them. Scott would never listen to that. Sean, are you kidding me? He loves the Muppets.
You love the Muppets too, so shut up.
I do love the Muppets.
That's because you guys are Muppets.
All right. Well, he is Gonzo Shenanigans, so there you go.
I do think that that's a segment I think we should bring that in. Is
Guilty pleasures. I agree. We should do
Absolutely.
a special segment where we got to do guilty pleasures.
There you go. All right. So Scott, what do you got now for us?
All right. Well, trying to make sure that we keep at least partial foot in modern music. I'm going to go to 2019, and I'm a big fan of this group. So you can tell me not that record. I think Jonny tried to tell me that. But I have all the records and I've listened to them a lot. And that group is Papa Roach. And this record is Who Do You Trust? So I will say that I was not a fan, because I'm not a big fan of rap in general. And they have like this rock rap kind of tone to them on the first few records, which Infest and Love Hate Tragedy. And that they had a, big song, and that's what they're known for. But I think they grew. I mean, here's the thing: like a group has a big push where they're very popular, and then they keep making records, and the fans drop off. Probably the peak for Papa Roach was, I'm going to say maybe Paramore Sessions was the last time they were like at the top of the list with bands, and Scar was probably their biggest hit and probably the beginning of people dropping off. But that's where I got into Papa Roach, was really Getting Away with Murder and then Paramore Sessions. And I was hooked because they started incorporating into their music just straight ahead, rock songs. And they do them very well. I think they also do ballads as well as any rock group out there. That guy's voice, what is his name? I forget, but it's just amazing. I mean, you hear it on Scar, but almost every album has a song like that on it, and it's really remarkable. So I picked this one because this is the record where they bring it all together. Like, if I'm going to listen to rap rock, I'll listen to Papa Roach because I think they do it as good as anybody. So this record's got like 2 songs like that. I like the catchy, tight hooks, alternative rock sounding songs. There are 4 of those on here that are just spot on, and then there is a ballad on here called Problems. It's just absolutely beautiful. So I'm sure a lot of people have fallen off of Papa Roach. They still tour. I've seen them a few years ago. They're great in concert, sound amazing in concert. But this is a good record, really good record. And I think it's like if you wanted a Papa Roach sampler, because it has they have like 3 distinct or 4 distinct styles. This one has everything. All styles are represented.
With regards to rap, rock, if you will, no other band does it better than Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, that's the other band out there, and I can stand some of their songs.
All right.
You actually like? I like that, Scott. That you like.
Yeah. I'm a little surprised, but that's awesome. I'll have to give it a listen. Although I've heard Papa Roach, but all right. So my next album starts off with a guy that pretty much was homeless before. Why is it that these folky singer-songwriters usually their story starts off as I was living in a car and living from couch to couch?
The struggling artist.
So this guy, he was big, in the small like coffee houses or whatever around the area, and but then he became probably one of the leading folk singer-songwriters out there, and kind of helped push a whole movement in the early 70s between Carole King and Joni Mitchell, all these people. And the record I have is his second album, James Taylor's Sweet Baby Jane. Of course, the big hit was Fire and Rain. Country Road was the other single on here. But this really pushed this whole, that we had a nice little era of the singer-songwriter in the early 70s. And this is definitely influences probably everybody that's come after him. And a person who, this was 1970, 56 years later, still sounds the same. It's amazing how well he still sounds. And we were talking about when we were going through like bands. I mean, his greatest hits album is an amazing. That's probably one of those great, greatest hits albums out there. But this definitely is an essential that I think you guys should own. And I just happened to be able to find enough pieces to make mine a little bit extra.
Almost perfect.
Yeah, I know. It was amazing. All the pieces I found 3 different ones, and I put it together and made that one. But we know that he belongs on this list of the 500, and we had to think of an album other than his greatest hits. And that really is what really launched him to a whole different level of singer, songwriter, artist. So there you go.
I gotta say, Sean, your picks were really solid this week. I think it's a reaction to being on probation with picks after the Muppet scandal. But James Taylor, Queensryche, who was the first one?
Oh, Beach Boys.
Oh yeah, so
and also we also mentioned Russ Kunkel earlier. Russ Kunkel is and probably a lot of the Wrecking Crew was probably on this, but Russ Kunkel is probably still hangs out with James Taylor. And who else sang on this? Goodness. Carole King was also played piano on this album and sang vocals too. So definitely a folk artist dream record right there. So that concludes our essentials for tonight, guys.
I'm just going to put this up here one more time in case you forgot. Chris Squire's Fish Out of Water. Give it a listen.
VG cover.
Thank you.
Cover. Yeah, I mean, somebody obviously there was a sticker or something that just ripped that thing all the way off.
Well, we're going to get these stickers that say Devo certified. We'll have to get one not Devo certified for that cover.
In the shrink with the hype.
No shrink.
That's Devo certified. As a matter of fact,
that is VOC certified.
Yeah. So this is where we go to our next segment with Jonny and Scott are going to be talking about supergroups. Also, someone just sent me a message. Well, my wife did that. David Allen Coe just passed away. So
he did.
We lost another one. So we always think about the people, those artists. So supergroup. What is the definition of a supergroup, Jonny?
Well, so Sean, you say it's me and Scott, but this is a group conversation, both with the four of us on the screen as well as with the chat. So when we talk about supergroups, the way I looked at it was a musical group that came together that consists of artists from other major musical groups, and you'll kind of catch on to what we're talking about as we go through this discussion. So there's some groups that are technically supergroups that I don't personally consider supergroups, because the supergroup was actually bigger than the groups that made it in the first place. And we'll actually, the way that I kind of did my list was I looked at the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then the 2000s. Supergroups, to me, after about 2010, they kind of just dropped off. You don't see a whole lot of supergroups. You see a lot of featurings, this artist featuring this artist. But when you have a whole supergroup, we're talking about artists that come together and put out at least one album, if not more than that. And it's going to kind of vary as this list goes on. So when we start, like I said, I started with the 60s, because that's really when your supergroups kind of started forming. And one that is technically a supergroup, but you don't think of them as such because the group itself is bigger than anything that the artist came out of previously, and that's Led Zeppelin. Technically is a supergroup because you had these artists that came from other bands that already existed and formed Led Zeppelin, which went on to become a classic in their own right. Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young.
But we're other than Jimmy Page, were any of them ever recorded before?
I think Robert Plant was, yes.
Robert Plant. Well, Robert Plant was with Bonham.
He was with a band, and I do think that they did record, like they had a mild hit with the band he was in. I know he was in a couple of bands before eventually he met up with Jimmy Page, and which was a referral from another guy that couldn't be in the band that Jimmy wanted, and referred, he told him, go check out this guy.
This guy.
But that being said, that's kind of the extreme example of a group that just kind of took off and became legends in their own right as technically a super group. Look at groups like Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. That technically is a super group of artists that came together to form the band of, sometimes with or without Neil Young. But
same
Crosby,
with Cream.
Stills, Nash.
You've got Cream as well.
We talk about, well, you mentioned Cream. That's actually my pick for the one from the 60s. If I had to pick a supergroup from the 60s, it's Cream. You also have Blind Faith, which also had Eric Clapton. Scott and I had a conversation about a week ago that, Clapton was in a lot of supergroups. And the fact that none of them really stayed
Ginger
together.
Baker with him.
Maybe Clapton was the issue with some of these groups.
He was the problem. Yeah.
But I would say Cream as being, to me, the first real supergroup that accomplished what they did, and having multiple albums that were all hits in their own rights, and a group that you recognize Cream. It's not just like some flash in the pan supergroup that just kind of happened and it was a fun idea but never came. Cream was something that was influential for decades to come. So from the 60s, I would pick Cream. I don't know if everyone agrees on that consensus, or if you have somebody else from the 60s that you think is probably the superior supergroup.
Well, I think not only are they a supergroup, but I also think they're one of the best power trios ever.
No, fair assessment.
I will say, it was really remarkable that they stayed together. That's why I wish artists would record more albums quicker, because this situation with Cream was so volatile. I saw an interview with Clapton, and said it was in the first meeting he walked into that
Ginger
Jack
Baker
Bruce
could
and
not
Ginger
stand
Baker
Jack
were
Bruce.
at each other.
Yeah. Always.
And he goes, what have I gotten myself into? So the fact that we got Wheels of Fire, we got Disraeli Gears, and we got a decent little catalog from this group in a very short period of time.
Yeah, and if you look, what I failed to do is, for my picks from these decades, I actually listed the groups they came out of. Eric Clapton came out of the Yardbirds, as well as John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. Jack Bruce came out of Manfred Mann, and Ginger Baker from the Graham Bond Organization. So those were your three bands that kind of made Cream. So no other comments. We'll move on to the 70s and kind of what I put together from the 70s as far as some of these groups. And I don't have many from the 70s, so this may be one where a little bit more conversation would add to the list. I have Bad Company. I have Derek and the Dominoes, again, with some Eric Clapton. Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Good one.
And then I'll save my pick for the 70s until we've all had our say. But what say you as far as the 1970s and supergroups?
Oh, I don't know. What year did this record come out?
So I have that one in the 60s. I don't know if that was like late 60s, early 70s.
1969, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's right there
Okay.
on the cusp.
69, 70, but I think it was 69.
But I mean, like I said, with Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Sometimes Young, they went on to do other albums, so they did actually carry over into the 70s. So I think they kind of fall into both decades. So I think it counts.
Yeah, you could count that. Absolutely.
For me personally, in the 70s, and this is kind of this is probably the weirdest pick of the ones that I had, because when Scott saw this, he's like, "Oh, you're considering them a supergroup," and I'll say why. And the reason I pick them too is because of their longevity. And it kind of goes against what I was saying with Led Zeppelin. They're better known as the group Journey than anything they did before that. But the group of Journey originally started off, Neil Schon and Greg Raleigh came from Santana.
Yep.
Ross Valerie came from the Steve Miller Band. George Tickner came from I don't even know if I'm saying this right, the Frumious Bandersnatch. And then Prairie Prince, who was, I believe, the drummer at the beginning, came from the Tubes. So this is almost like your studio musicians, almost like a Toto type situation, where you brought these guys together. Now, granted, members have come and gone out of Journey. I think Neil's the only one that's still an original member for that group. But the legacy of Journey has continued on all the way up to present day. But started off as a super group comprised of musicians from these other groups that were successful in the 70s.
I would say in the 70s, if you gave me two bands that I would still consider supergroups, there are two. One would be Fleetwood Mac, given with the addition of Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, because they were their own act prior to going over, which, kind of really made Fleetwood Mac what they were, going away from kind of, the earlier blues albums. And the Eagles, because you had a lot of members from Poco, right? And other bands. So I think
Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh.
Correct. With Joe Walsh, coming in later on. And of course, Timothy B. Schmidt, who was also a part of Poco as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely would consider them a super group. So I put both of those in.
Would you see, when I was, we didn't really put any hard boundaries, but I didn't even think about Journey, but Journey would, if we said yes, that's a super group, Journey would qualify because what's his name? Jonathan Cain came in from the Babies.
Right, Lyle.
But Eagles was one. I was like, well, what is that a super group? Because they had a bass in the bass membership, and then really only Randy Meisner, could you say, came from another?
Because Randy Meisner, I believe, was with Poco. Timothy B. Schmidt was with Poco.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, and thank you, Lyle, because you got to remember also, what was it, Bernie? It came from Flying Burrito Brothers. Yep, he came from Flying Burrito Brothers. Was an amazing,
I could go either way with Eagles. I don't really think of them as a super group, but I mean, I
put them there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in the conversation, I think, because I did see them come up on some lists. They were on some and not on others, so I think they're kind of one that it goes either way, and which is kind of the conversation we're having now. Is no, maybe, kind of, sort of,
because a few of the Eagles were on Linda Ronstadt's backing band, and that's kind of where they met and went from there.
That was Glenn.
Yeah, but that's kind of like pay for hire type situation.
It was.
Yeah. But that's how they kind of got together.
Still, but here's the other thing too. Well, I mean, you could say the same thing for Glenn Frey, right? When he played with Bob Seger, like early on, he was kind of a backing vocal, kind of one of many players, if you will.
Well, I guess if we since my 70s record actually ended up being a 60s record, I would say if the Eagles count, I'm for the 70s. I'm going for the Eagles, although it was the Journey thing is valid. So,
Who was Steve Perry with prior to? Before he
Steve Perry
came
was
on
the thing.
board.
Yeah, I think they probably. I don't know that he was with another group. It's probably just, hey, we're looking for a vocalist, and it's
yeah.
maybe the same way they found the guy they have right now. I mean, there was no YouTube back then, but kind of the whatever the 1970s equivalent to YouTube was, the flyer at Guitar Center with the pull the number off thing.
Agreed, Tucker.
Oh. The Joe Walsh gave some oomph to the Eagles. There's no doubt.
Well, remember,
about it.
don't count out Don Felder, though. I mean, he basically kind of started the progression of the sound because he was more rock. But yes, Joe Walsh was the glue.
But what albums did Felder play on? Like did he just play on the Long Run in Hotel California?
So he came on, I think y'all could probably check this, but I believe he came on and played on a track or two in one of these nights.
Hmm.
And then eventually, Hotel California and The Long Run were the two albums he was on. And then Timothy B. Schmidt was just on The Long Run, but he was touring with them during Hotel California, I think, after
Randy Meisner
left.
Yeah.
So when we start talking about the 80s, this is probably going to open. I found a lot of super groups from the 80s, some more popular than others, but a lot nonetheless. And I don't know if that has anything to do with the nature of the music industry at the time and bands just at each other's throats for whatever reason, but always breaking off and forming these other groups. Bands I had on this list: This Mortal Coil, The Power Station, Arcadia, Mike and the Mechanics, Tin Machine, Damn Yankees, Asia, and I'll save my pick for the 80s until everyone else has had their chance to talk. But those are kind of the ones that I came up with.
I'm just going to go ahead and say Van Halen. I'm putting him in, Scott, because he was with Montrose. He was solo. He had a successful solo career.
But he entered a band that already existed.
But
it's funny because
technically, so was 1984 Van Halen's first number one? I believe so. Yeah, first number one album.
Which makes Scott's number one wrong.
If it didn't, I think, so you could check it. But I think with the addition of Sammy Hagar, they were the number one band from the time he came on. They had a 10-year run.
I think 5150 was actually the only number one Van Halen.
I think you're
record.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. So I think they became more streamlined. I think they became obviously a little more commercial with Sammy Hagar, but I think he made the band better. Although, what everybody loves about David Lee Roth is the fact that he was a showman. I mean, he was a front man in the truest sense. He was an entertainer. But Sammy Hagar could sing, man. That guy has pipes.
Well, I'm not going to count Van Halen. I think.
But you'll stand by your top 5.
Absolutely, I will.
Crap.
So with that argument, wouldn't Wings be a super group with great?
Yeah.
I never considered Wings to be a super group.
No, Denny Lane was with the Moody Blues. Who was he with?
He was with the Moody Blues.
Moody Blues, yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, you've got. I mean, how do you categorize, right? Right? Do you say, people coming in from other successful bands?
So like Temple of the Dog or something like that.
Temple of the Dog would be a great pick for the 90s. Absolutely.
Yeah, if that was a good record.
It's a great record.
It's
got a great song on it. Hunger Strike's a great song. Okay, I'm going to settle this 80s because I know, but the record that people are going to pick, and Floyd is over there picking the record. Okay, I got 1A and B. 1A and 1B, Johnny. I mean, but I got to go with 1A. This record right here is a gosh darn masterpiece. I don't like prog. What this group did is they packaged prog in a way that even I could like prog. And you had Steve Howe from Yes, you had John Wetton from King Crimson, Carl Palmer from ELP, and Jeffrey Downs from that massive band, the Buggles. But this record is so good. Heat of the Moment, Soul Survivor, Only Time Will Tell, Wildest Dreams. I mean, nothing against 1B, which I won't show because I think it's Johnny's one. But I would still argue that record is a great record. This one is better. Floyd, you're wrong, buddy. You're just wrong.
So if we're talking about my one and Scott's 1B, and probably what everybody else is it's the elephant in the room, and it's the Traveling Wilburys. This group
they're amazing.
comes together towards the latter end of the 80s. It was 87 or 88. They put out only 2 albums, ironically titled Volumes 1 and 3. And you're talking about, you've got Tom Petty, you've got Bob Dylan, you have a Beatle, you have the heart and soul of ELO, and then you have Mr. Roy Orbison. It's an amazing lineup. And not to mention the one that's not credited, because all of these guys are guitar players. On the drums, you had Jim Keltner. So it's a lineup of lineups. So I had to put the Traveling Wilburys in at, the best of the 80s supergroups.
I could agree to that. Did Ringo drum on any of the tracks? I thought he did.
There could be. I'd have to go back and check all of those track credits. I know Keltner is all over those 2 records. Dude. So,
and this to me would be almost the ultimate supergroup because of their legend status on their own. They're all legends on their own.
Well, that's true, but I mean, if you're being honest about this record, it's got some really great tracks, and it's got some tracks that aren't so strong. That's my problem with picking them over Asia. Is Asia's album as an album just stands up better.
Yeah, I would definitely say Volume 3, the follow up, the album that doesn't have Roy Orbison on it, is definitely the weaker of the 2. Volume 1, I think is definitely it's the fact that you've got, like Sean said, it's the legend status of these guys that's putting these 5 dudes on one record is just amazing. And the fact that they interplay, it's not just the same lineup. They interchange who's doing lead vocals, who's got that lead guitar riff, sometimes within the same song. It is just an amazing group of musicians, and again, like Sean said, just the legend behind it. And I don't think you're ever going to have a group that spans the level of talent like you had here. I think the names are just bigger, and that's the thing. You have groups like Asia, yes, good solid album, but the names aren't recognizable to everybody. Most everyone who knows anything about music knows who these 5 people are. So, or at least over 50%.
And Ringo did not play on the Wilburys. He did play on I Won't Back Down
on Tom Petty, yes,
which also included George Harrison.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is the I got to get this in here. Thomas has Traveling Wilbury clocks. That's on time, and Thomas is a sponsor of Echo the Waves Music, so got to get him in here.
I see what Thomas says about the Highwaymen, and as far as like from a country perspective, outlaw country, Highwaymen is something that was definitely different. There's not a lot of country supergroups, again, a lot of featuring duet type stuff, but to have a supergroup like the Highwaymen, credit where credit's due. It's a good supergroup.
Yep, that's a good record too.
No Chicken Foot. Now, when we're talking about Chicken Foot may show up again on this list somewhere else, but not in the 80s. We're moving on to the 90s, which not quite as long of a list from me. So hopefully somebody else has some stuff to throw in on this list. I've got for the 90s A Perfect Circle. So a little bit of tying in with Tool from earlier, and then some Smashing Pumpkins. Mad Season, going back to our grunge conversation earlier with Alice in Chains. I want to say it was Mud Honeys that was part of the Screaming Trees, one of the two that was part of Mad Season. Slash's Snake Pit. Slash has had a couple of different side projects throughout the years where he brings in some of his high profile friends, and the Snake Pit was one in the 90s. And then a tie-in to Pantera that I talked about earlier. Down was Phil Anselmo and some members of Crowbar that had a metal super group. And then before I get to what I consider to be the 1990s super group, any thoughts from the rest of the crowd here?
So my guess would be Pearl Jam.
Well,
there's a Pearl Jam connection.
Mother Love Bone.
There's a Mother Love Bone connection too.
What's got it?
He's hitting all around it. If this was the if Jake's trying to lay rounds on target, I think
it's already been mentioned tonight.
It has been mentioned.
Well, because you think about it, you think about Pearl Jam. I mean, you've got members from Mother Love Bone, Temple of the Dog. You've got
Jake.
Boom,
it is Temple of the Dog.
Temple of the Dog.
So Temple of the Dog is a super group made up of Chris Cornell from Soundgarden and the existing members of Mother Love Bone, who eventually did become Pearl Jam. And then for a song, they brought in Eddie Vedder as well. So the origin of this super group is that Mother Love Bone, being its own band in the early or late 80s, early 90s, lost their lead singer, who all these grunge groups in Seattle kind of knew each other. They played with each other. They had friendships. So when he passed, Chris Cornell took it upon himself to write this album and record it with the existing members of Mother Love Bone, which became Temple of the Dog. So this is, for me, this is the super group of the 90s. I know Scott was saying, there's one good song on that. I mean, there were two big singles off of these. You have Say Hello to Heaven and Hunger Strike.
Yeah, one good song.
But this whole album is, I mean, if you haven't listened to it,
Stone Sour.
Reach Down is a great song as well.
Down that's an epic song. So the whole first side of that record is amazing.
A song I would have loved to have seen on it, even though it, was on the single soundtrack and it was basically all Chris Cornell, with Seasons. I just think that's such a beautiful song.
It is. And what you're looking at with this so this album came out, like I said, these guys, Mother Love Bone becomes Pearl Jam. This is in 1991. This album didn't actually gain any notoriety until Pearl Jam became popular. So this predates 10. So and it's Chris Cornell's voice at a point when there's no denying that there's a lot of, like, we were talking about, like, hair metal influences that you can hear on, like, Alice in Chains' Facelift. Chris Cornell has always had that real high-end falsetto that just really speaks to, like, that hair metal era of music. And his vocals on this album are probably stronger than anything he did with Soundgarden. It's amazing. If you've never listened to this album, all you've heard are the two singles, I implore you, listen to the whole thing. Excellent album.
Well,
that is correct, Lyle.
Floyd also is throwing Stone Sour in there, which you had Corey Taylor and you had Mike Portnoy on that and others. So I guess I just couldn't really come up with a 90s one. I mean, I knew about Temple of the Dog, but I don't really. I love Hunger Strike, but I don't really like that record all that much. So.
Well, okay, hold up. So what year was Velvet Revolver's first record? Early 2000, late 90s or early 2000s?
Early 2000s.
Which tells you I'm a huge Velvet Revolver fan, but it is a supergroup. I mean, it's Guns N' Roses and STP.
It's a good ushering into the 2000s discussion, though. And I have a few here on the 2000s. And this is where I feel, amazingly enough, the fact that there's so many supergroups from the 60s and 70s. And this one, I feel like everyone's going to have very strong opinions one way or the other. The list that I have in front of me has Audio Slave. I have Angels and Airwaves, Army of Anyone, Hell Yeah, Chickenfoot, Them Crooked Vultures, Hollywood Vampires, and then the group that I think is the best of the 2000s, but I'll save that until we're done with the discussion. So, thoughts on the 2000s and supergroups?
Well, Jonny, you named the best.
You covered them
supergroup.
all I know of.
Right,
So,
right there. Audio
Velvet
Slave.
Revolver, Audio Slave.
Audio Slave first. Audio Slave.
I would probably go with Audio Slave because I think it's a damn good record.
Yeah. Show Me How to Live.
I enjoyed
Like
it.
Stone.
Chris
I Am the
Cornell
Highway.
coming in twice in the 90s and 2000s.
So what I actually picked for the 2000s is not Audio Slave. As much as I love Chris Cornell, Audio Slave isn't my personal jam, but Jake, you hit it a second ago, and that's Velvet Revolver. The sound that came out of this like stank rock that Slash was able to achieve with Scott Weiland on vocals. This is a lot of Guns N' Roses in this group with a new singer. But you're also looking at, they brought in from Wasted Youth, Dave Kushner. But yeah, you've got Slash, Duff, and Matt Sorum from Guns N' Roses as your backing band here. So it's definitely got like a sleaze factor to it, but it's just so good. I loved it. It was something that was different from everything else that we were getting in the 2000s. It kind of harkened back to that kind of like 80s hard rock metal sound, and I just absolutely loved it. For me, Audio Slave always just sounded like Rage Against the Machine with a different singer, and it toned down a little bit, not quite as heavy. So
something to mention, Jonny, if we go back to the 80s, technically Black Sabbath with Dio, would you consider that?
It's an interesting conversation because it goes along with what you were talking about with Van Halen. And when a group changes singers, I don't know if that then qualifies them as a super group.
If they would change the name,
potentially,
like Rage Against the Machine, they added Chris Cornell, right?
Yeah, and
they could have called it Slack Habith, and it would have been deal.
And then your argument would be valid. So
while you're saying technically, we're saying no, not technically.
Well, okay, so Velvet Revolver is Guns N' Roses with Scott Weiland,
but it's not called Guns N' Roses.
It's not Guns N' Roses. It's Velvet Revolver. It's a different group.
Listen, you guys, I was gonna not say this, but really, they did go under Black Sabbath, but really the name was changed to Slack Habith.
Little known facts from Jake.
But again, this is one of those. It depends on how you define a super group. And
can I show you how I designed how I chose a super group? I'm going to show you my super group because I've read the homework wrong. This is my super group right here. This is number one, Menudo, super group.
Well, put on New Kids
Little
on
Ricky from Silver Spoons was trying to get him to play at his birthday party for his girlfriend. And the other super group that I think is a super group is the Muppets. Great band. So I read the super group thing wrong. I didn't.
Sean, you could say that because Jim Henson, they were big fans of music and they took, artists that they liked and did the, bands with. Animal obviously is based off of Keith Moon. And then what's his name is, to me, I've always looked at him as Dr. John, which is
I love how we've made it a super group now. This is awesome.
It is. I mean, you could put it.
It's a travesty is what it is.
Thank you, Jake.
Sean, you should listen. Just put a band together and call it Snuffleupagus.
There you go.
So another question would be, do you consider, because I don't think they had an album, but do you consider a group that never actually puts out an album to be a super group? Because you have groups like the Dirty Mac that
if someone paid to see him, yes.
I say you have to have a record and they have to have toured.
What?
Because it was definitely a super group, but it was only put together temporarily, and nothing came of it. Would have been awesome if it would have.
So what about What about Zwan?
Could
What
definitely
members
could.
played with Billy Corgan on Zwan? What bands? Where did they come from? But Zwan could be that. Perfect Circle was a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because the
Perfect
first
Circle
album was excellent. Oh, do you consider Porno for Pyros, or do you consider Porno for Pyros basically like Paul McCartney and Wings, Perry Farrell, and another band of misfits, if you will?
I think it could go either way. Like I said, depending on how you define the term supergroup.
Yeah, we didn't really put any discussion either. And I mean, Chickenfoot, that's legit. I think the struggle with Chickenfoot is the songs that were good were great. Like Sexy Little Thing, that is a rocker. They just couldn't come up with enough great songs to fill those two records up. So the deep cuts were kind of
we forgot Oysterhead.
I didn't forget them because I don't know who they are.
Les Claypool, Stuart Copeland.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Les Claypool has had a lot of side projects, though.
He has.
Like he did that thing with Sean and Lennon as well. Les Claypool's all over the place. And I feel like Primus, everything was overshadowed by what he did in Primus.
Yes.
Whereas
Cheese, probably the best record they did.
But then again, some of these are still going to be overshadowed by their groups. You look like Them Crooked Vultures. I mean, when you have Queens of the Stone Age, Foo Fighters, and freaking Led Zeppelin in one supergroup, all of those overshadow a one album supergroup type situation.
What about? Thank you, Lyle. Thank you. What about? Oh God, I had it and I lost it. I saw Lyle's comment and I got lost. And I was about to mention it. It was going to be a good one. It might come back. It might not.
The band called USA for Africa.
So I saw stuff like that come up too, like Band-Aid and the We Are the World stuff came up as like super groups. But again, it was like they recorded a single and then moved on. It wasn't. I don't consider that to be a super group. It's just a.
What do you think Metallica would have been had they hired Les Claypool?
A lot different.
Still be Metallica.
Scott, he auditioned for Metallica. He was friends with Kirk Hammett.
But I'm telling you, Robert can throw down. I mean, they got a good one. I mean, maybe
that's one where I think it worked out better the way it did, because then wouldn't have had Primus and
Les Claypool is a better bass player than Jason Newsted.
Oh, by far. It's not even close. It's like not. Yeah, it's a whole different world.
Like, don't get me wrong, right? Cliff Burton was a great bassist for them in the way he played bass, but Les Claypool is on a different planet.
Yes. Yeah. It's not even a fair comparison, to be honest.
That really isn't.
I mean, that guy does stuff with bass what like Tom Morello was doing with guitars in Rage Against the Machine. It's like you're not supposed to get that out of a bass.
I still don't know how Tom Morello does the things he does with the guitar and the sounds he makes. It blows my mind. It just blows my mind, the stuff he does, how he makes a guitar speak the way he does.
That's because he mounts it real high and he does all this secret stuff that you can't see.
I actually started playing my guitar up high for a while to see if I could do. And some of the stuff you can imitate, but it's the fact that he was as innovative as he was, and that's the same thing with Les Claypool. It's the innovation behind what it is he did with a bass was just mind blowing. And the thing is, no one else can really imitate it, and no one else even tries because it's freaking Les Claypool.
Yeah, agreed.
But those, and I stopped there. I didn't go past the early 2000s because, like I said, I couldn't find a whole lot of what I consider meaningful supergroups past that point. But there you have what did we go through? 5 decades of supergroups, and we probably didn't even hit all of them. So
I think supergroups are probably less of a thing now because major labels aren't what they used to be. I think a lot of the supergroup stuff came around because labels saying, hey, why don't you get with so-and-so, and trying to piece together something they feel like they can sell. Now with even if you're getting distributed by a major label, you're on some boutique label, or you own your own, you do it yourself. It's just a very different game than it used to be. It used to be like, you'd have to get $1 million advance just to record a studio record. So
Highwaymen were mentioned.
They didn't say Highwaywoman, but it's more of a country.
Which, I mean, that's fine. Like I said earlier, it's the fact that the Highwaymen are one of the few country supergroups that I can even think of. Speaks a lot to them. So it's and I think, Scott, you have a point. It's probably a lot of legal stuff now because it's gotten much more complex in the world of contracts and just recording rights to certain, not just the bands but the artists themselves. Is like they're all individually under these contracts.
I love you, Lyle.
It gets difficult to get these persons, even when they want to maybe get together and do something, they're legally bound not to be able to do it now.
Well, you know what I always wish? I always think of these, let's say these 90s bands that are continuing on. Like, it would be cool for them to do like a super group. What if Collective Soul got with Better and Ezra and did a record? That would be interesting sound. Two great songwriters, but they don't. But I mean, it'd be a good gimmick tour, like do an album, go on tour. They'd probably pull in a fair amount of people.
And then the Highwaywoman is what? Linda Ronstadt, Emmylou Harris, and Dolly.
I was going to say Dolly. Is she on there? That's pretty damn good. Yeah. That's a damn good trio.
And they're called the Trio. That's what they're called.
Yeah, but the Highwaywoman is the Lyle listed them: Brandy Carlisle, Maren Morris, Amanda
the newer.
Shores,
Okay, well, I'm thinking of the Trio.
Yeah.
And the Highwaywoman is that one. There you go.
By the way, Sean, may I just go ahead and say that shirt is hideous.
No, it's not. It is amazing.
Beat my Rockets 4-2. We had no business being in the finals that year. We got lucky. Thank you, Ralph Sampson. Appreciate that lucky shot, buddy.
All right. So I think we're kind of at the end here. I think we're all kind of losing steam here tonight.
Well, that's what happens when you do back-to-back podcasts.
Johnny and hey, listen, Johnny and I.
Johnny, it's what, 4 in the. What time is it, Johnny? 4 in the morning.
It's 4:18.
Yeah, 4 in the morning. Yeah. So I think this is where we're gonna have to end it, guys, because we are getting a little. Well, we're at 2 hours and 16 minutes too, but it was a fun night. It was a long night, but it was a fun night. What's Jake doing?
Fish out of water.
All right, so let's thank Johnny. How many appearances now, Johnny? Is this your 4th?
This is number 4 on 3 Men. Yeah.
So
4 on here and 1 time on Closing Arguments.
Yeah,
much fun having it. Good to see you, Tucker.
And so you still got some Dimbosh stuff left? You and Red are going to try to sell?
There's a little bit left. Red actually went shopping again this week and picked up some more stuff. So we're going to combine all that stuff together this weekend. We're going to do some of the Whatnot stuff. So you can find us on Sunday sometime. Probably not right after, but shortly after. Easy like Sunday morning.
Well, my easy like Sunday morning is Saturday this week, so you can start early, and I may jump on Sunday morning, but I think I'm going to do Saturday morning this week.
Stacy, I really thought I had
because it's easy like Sunday morning, which means it could be on a different day. It's just easy like Sunday morning.
Semantics.
Yeah,
I'll be on a few hours tomorrow as well.
Shark, if you go Saturday, you have to do early with Shark. You can't. That's it's in a contract somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, you guys see me there. I got a bunch of stuff to add this week, and it'll be a good show.
Yeah. So I have officially gotten employment. So part time. I am retired, but. I'm doing some consulting work, so I'm going to go down to 1 show a week, and it'll be Wednesday night with the Japanese vinyl, and I will occasionally pop on Saturday or Sunday with like Power Hour. So I'll kind of avoid Jonny and Retta because I think sometimes we have some of the same customers. So, but we'll figure out where the pop-ups will be, and they'll be short. They will be like 1 hour pre-bid, run the pre-bids and get out of there. So.
All right. So that's where we're all this week. That's where we are on Whatnot this week. So check us out. And then again, tomorrow is Mr. Jakey Poo over there. All right. So guys, thank you for hanging out with us. And especially you made both shows tonight. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us.
And again, guys, I've had a lot of fun last week on our Discord. Continue on. It's a lot of fun interacting with you guys. You know, if you cook something fun, put it in the food thing. You've got a new record, put it in the other thing, and just come on and hang out. It's a lot of fun.
I'd say Jonny and I annihilated this evening. I mean, what do you expect when you beat two gentlemen with a combined age of 375?
Well, some people might not know what we're talking about, or they're watching this episode later. So if you didn't catch it, we do want to thank Josh Devolutionator for coming on the first episode of Closing Arguments. We had a ton of fun. We were arguing grunge versus post grunge, alternative rock. Just had a good time. Sean was a terrible judge. I don't know who.
I did not think I was going to pick grunge.
For the record, I called him about 30 minutes prior to, and I was like, "You better not."
I kept an open mind, and the argument was better for the grunge. Whether I agree with it,
well, you just put that turntable on the back screened-in porch, and I'll be picking it back up tomorrow. Okay, that was a wasted bribe.
I called it, dude.
All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.